be done. Please be seated. So that gospel is a tough gospel, isn't it? Whenever you think about that. That's one that preachers do not want to preach about. And so I am so grateful that I'm not going to preach. And so today we have 6 new people. This is their first time visiting St. Brendan's today. And so you have come to St. Brendan's as we begin our stewardship meditation for 3 consecutive weeks. So you get to hear today our senior warden who will be talking to you about who we are. And we have a phrase around here that says, "We are St. Brendan's." Now, I as your priest just have to give you a little bit on the gospel, just a little bit. And I think this will serve in terms of the introduction to what Tom's going to say. This gospel is a bit confusing, isn't it? And one of the reasons why it's confusing is because it's posed by Sadducees. And so the Sadducees are not the Pharisees. These are the people that spent most of the time taking care of the temple, but they had a lot of opinions. And they didn't believe in the resurrection, you see. And so Jesus was preaching the story about the resurrection, and so they didn't believe in it. And so they had a hypothetical question that ends up being pretty sexist, if you look at that question. So the question is that if the 7 brothers end up marrying this widowed person who is widowed from the first brother, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and in Jewish law, you had an obligation if your brother died childless to marry his widow and to produce progeny so that the brother would have eternal life. See, that was the rule. And it then shed onto women a secondary kind of role. They were utilitarian. Now the question becomes interesting because the question is, so then in heaven, who, Jesus, do you say is the man who would claim him as his own? See the sexism. And Jesus says, you don't got this. See, in the resurrection of the dead, we are all angels. You see, one of the perplexing things that we have in our lifetime is, since we're human, we're individuated and we're very unique and very customized. And so what that brings in is variety and diversity, but it also brings in a whole lot of like, should we accept that person? See, differences come in. See, and who we are as St. Brendan's, and this is what Tom is going to be talking about today, is, see, we are resurrection people. We don't see difference as loudly as some people do. See, we give equality to men and women in our church. See, if you are gay or straight, you are equally welcome. If you are black or white, see, we're already celebrating what it's like to be in resurrection mode. We are St. Brendan's. Now, if you take that reading from Job, just love that. I know that my Redeemer lives. Now, the question is for us today, I think, is this. Do we say that because we are St. Brendan's? So, would you put that phrase at the end of, we are St. Brendan's, and I know our Redeemer lives? Or is it, I know my Redeemer lives, therefore we are St. Brendan's? I prefer the second option.
Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me in the choir? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You know, there are a couple hundred jokes out there about stewardship, and a couple of them are even fun. So here's one. 2 men were marooned on a desert island surrounded by sharks. They were out of food and water. One man was worried and scared and paced back and forth. The other man leaned back against a palm tree and just sunned himself. After a while, the first man couldn't stand it. Out of frustration, he said to the second man, "How can you be so relaxed? Aren't you afraid that we're going to die?" "No," said the second man. "I give faithfully to my church every week, and it's stewardship month back home. They'll find me." Yes, this is a talk about stewardship, but it's not really a talk about money. That's it. I could easily say, end of story. Except there are two things. The story's not over, and I am leaving out some wonderful details. Details like, did you know St. Brendan sent a caravan of people to Ground Zero after 9/11 to give comfort and aid to recovery workers? Details like, did you know St. Brendan's had a Habitat for Humanity chapter that went out each month to build houses for people who couldn't afford them? Details like, did you know our teenagers took pilgrimages to New Mexico, New York City, and other places? Pilgrimages that brought them face to face with human need while helping them to grow spiritually. This is all part of the love story, the story in which we are St. Brendan's. On Rochester Road, hundreds of drivers pass by our building each day. And if all they see is a church that's busy on Sundays, they would be mistaken. Sure, the parking lot is packed for 2 morning services, Sunday school, occasional adult studies, and the ever popular hospitality hour. But visit here on a weekday or a weeknight, and you would be just as amazed at the number of people here. Some of them have no religious connection at all. Neighbors trying to break the grip of alcohol, overusers getting on the road to help them live. Indian culture groups teaching dance and language to children. Others are Brendanites seeking God in Bible studies or discussing the ways of the modern Episcopal Church or rehearsing the music that is the choir's gift to the congregation. Others are volunteers teaching English to immigrants, parishioners growing vegetables for the food pantry, members picking up and delivering the monthly meal made here for homeless women. Then there's a youth group, a book club, a hiking group, knitters for goodness sakes. Last June, 30 Brendanites marched to the Pittsburgh Pride Parade downtown. We showed up with signs, carried banners, handed out flyers and stickers. As we started down Fifth Avenue, where most of the spectators stood, a huge roar from the crowd went up. It was a reaction to the fact that our church was publicly proclaiming that God loves them and they are welcome here. One of our members, Bill Graham, leaned over to me and said, "I cannot believe that I'm part of a church that is doing this." Well, Bill, you can believe it, because we are St. Brendan's. This church is also special for things you won't read about in a little blog or ministry guide. Many of you call St. Brendan's family, and while that may sound a little cliche, it's still true. Just ask those who have been helped through heartache by a friendly visitor, or who have gotten boost during illness from a meal maker. When someone has no way to get to critical medical appointments, we set up a driver's rotation to deliver you there. When someone's hands are crippled with pain, we go to her kitchen to help cut vegetables. This is all part of the love story, too. Last spring, Sandy and I had an opening visit with 2 elderly friends in Buffalo. Debbie is in declining health, and husband Jim is doing his best to hold things together. He still works to support the household and does all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry. He also cares for Debbie, whose mobility is more and more limited. Jim and Debbie have no nearby support from family or friends. They belonged to a church once decades ago. Now, except for Jim going to work in the supermarket, they are practically shut-ins, locked away from both help and hope. It was sad to see, and a sad ride home for us. One thing we both realized, though, our friends' lives would not be in this state if they were part of a caring congregation like this one, where we are St. Brendan's. At times like these, I wish I could pick up our church and share its blessings with others far away. And yet, we do. We have parishioners who help each month with Trinity Walk-In Ministry downtown, where some of the city's poorest people receive clothing and other essentials. We all helped through Cry's advocacy, in which 10% of our parish income is sent outside to groups that address human need across the country and around the world. While it's gratifying to know that St. Brendan's has a footprint larger than this building, it's also necessary at stewardship time for each of us to think about where we fit in. What can we do with the time and talent God gave us? What can we give from the bounty we've all received? In the next 3 weeks, you'll receive bulletin inserts and emails with information to help you answer these personal questions. Father Regis, the vestry, and I hope you will take the time to read the material. You will also see pledge cards. We hope you will take one of the cards, sign it, and enter the contribution level that reflects your love of and commitment to St. Brendan's. Then drop the card in the collection plate or the pledge box in the narthex or the church office. All contributions, regardless of size or frequency, are welcome and greatly received. All contributions are kept in strict confidence. Only our parish administrator knows. When you pledge, however, you give the vestry more certainty on how to budget for next year, the 33rd year, when we are St. Brendan's. I said this would not be a talk about dollars and cents, yet I know some of you want numbers. You want to know if costs will go up in 2020 and whether your level of giving should change. As always, St. Brendan's budget is open for members to see, and you'll receive a copy in your coming stewardship materials. Till then, here are a few new numbers. This year, after seeing the influx of young families, the vestry decided to step out in faith and hire a youth ministry coordinator for our Sunday school and teen programs. The move will raise next year's budget by $12,000, but it's a necessary commitment to bring our young people to God and to support parents who want upbringing for their children. Another new number for next year is $4,300, the amount that our mortgage with the diocese will increase. Years ago, when times were lean, the diocese stood with St. Brendan's by providing relief on our debt. Now it's time to resume paying what we owe and make good on our word. How do we do this? By increasing the number of pledges and by pledging as if our mission matters. Jesus said, "I have come to give life, life in all its fullness." St. Brendan's mission is the realization of this fullness through worship of God, service to the world, active concern for each other, and education to expand mind and spirit. So yes, our mission matters. Here's my last set of numbers. Last year, the vestry set a goal for 2019 of 60 pledges. You responded with 73. This time, our goal is 80 pledges, and I have no doubt that we can do it. If you pledged last year, please do so again. If you are new, please commit to St. Brendan's with a first-time pledge. I grew up in a church where a basket, not a plate, was passed around on Sundays. Parishioners looked inside their wallets or purses before deciding at that moment how much to give. While those contributions helped, they were not thought out in a way that put God first or put the church mission first. The St. Brendan's of today means so many things to so many people. And that means thinking and praying about all the ways we give so that the work of God continues. Matthew 6:21 reminds us, wherever your treasure is, your heart will be also. And so, in that spirit, may our hearts show we are committed. May our hearts show where we are thankful. Most of all, may our hearts declare that we are St. Brendan's.